I'll turn the light on. Woohoo! Hey, g'day guys. It's Calvin, Cartoon Company in New Zealand. I'm doing something a little bit different here. And I'm in a little bit of a different space. So this is the first loom I'm doing in my new house. I've set up a little wiring bench in the garage. I got carpet under my feet. I could shut the garage door and turn the heat pump on, but I'm not going to. It's not that cold. What we've got in front of me this time was sent to me. The man thought he had a Link ECU. It wasn't. It's a engine control systems ECU. It's a New Zealand built product. I know a little bit of history about it. I believe one of the designers at some point may have worked for Link. And it's in a Jetboat. It just looks like a wiring loom. 1UZ VVTi. We've got gauges. We've got a key. We've got some relays. There's fuses too. Fuses here. We've got an ECU. The man appears to work on Mustangs. And he's given me a list of things to do. So I've got to work out how this works, connect it to the ECU, or connect it to the PC, and then we're going to test it and check it. I think the first thing I'm going to do, before that, first thing I did was find a tuning cable. So that goes into the PC. There is a tuning port over by the ECU. So we've got all this down here, look at this. So there's the tuning port. I'm not sure what the white wire is, but that's the tuning port to plug in so we can communicate with ECU. I did bring a battery. I figured that I connect the battery to that one. And I connect the battery to that one. That'll be the earth, and we should be able to power this up. Turn the key on. It should kind of work. I do like the gauge cluster. I would normally, there's an oil pressure light here. I would normally mount that in there as well, in that gauge cluster. That's kind of neat. I like the fact that it's like a cassette you can take out. Right, what am I going to do? This loom's getting a refab back in the workshop. I actually rang Jason and said, hey, can you just do a refab on that loom? And then I walked out to my garage and it was here. So he probably couldn't refab it when it was with me. I'm going to go through, I'm going to fit some new plugs. These look like they've been recycled. They've got some cracks in the side. They may have been replaced. I'm not too sure whether they're new or what, but I think it's better if I just pop through and bang some new plugs on it. There's a couple of broken ones. See, that's kind of important. That one's broken. So if that one's broken, there's a chance that the others are going to break. So coil plugs, injector plugs, tidy up. Then we're going to come back and we're going to connect into the PC and try and communicate with this thing powered up. Less talking, more working. Getting into it. So my day didn't quite go to plan. That was actually yesterday. I got into it, started doing all the main plugs, which you saw me doing. I've done coil plugs, real easy. Cam sensor plugs, good. Crank sensor plug, easy. And then I realised I didn't have any ejector plugs here. So I've done a couple of other things. I've got some babies that have been born, which is pretty cool. I'll put them at the end. I made something to replace this loom. It now looks like this. So much neater and tidier. And that's covered in RNF 100 Raychem, new factory plug, new knock sensors, new trigger for the starter motor. I was looking at the temp sensor and I brought over a VVTi plug connector and it didn't fit. So I think the temp sensor may have been changed, or it's had the sides ground off it. I've got a brand new one, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a new one in it to help me for testing. Somehow this migrated in my pocket. That's an old one. You see that? So that's a non-VVTi, and it plugs in. Right, a couple more plugs, and this thing will be looking pretty good. Now, I really do think that these plugs have already been recycled. Some of them have just popped out really easy, and some of them just haven't. Example of this one. When I touched it in here, it shattered to pieces. There we go. It's just internally, it's breaking and cracking. And you never know which ones. They look good. Oh, these ones did have the broken clips, but you don't know until you get into them whether they're stuffed or not. And like this one, the little lever, the little clip inside here, it's just broken off the end of it. It just snapped off when I hit it with the removing tool. It should pop out easy. It's not. I may have to do some destructive removal to solve that problem. And that's why I put new plugs on these. In a way, they might look okay. These ones don't actually. If you squeeze it here, there's a crack right there. That one hasn't cracked, but this side has, see? Right there, cracked to bits. Let me fight these for a little bit, and then we're going to hook up a laptop. Ignition 1.
Ignition 1.
Pin 2.
Pin 2, yeah, so we've got continuity.
Perfect, and then I will do 6.
There you go.
That one? Nope, I'm in the wrong one. Wrong hole, if there is such a thing. That one.
Holes a go.
Still on the wrong one. It's that one. You can't really get these wrong because they come out of the loom in the right places, fortunately. So that's 8, that's 6, that's 4, that's 2, just the way they come out of the loom. You're on crank angle, please. So it's going to be you're going to be pin 1. So it's right down the bottom. So I'm going trig 1.
I need crank angle sensor. Yep.
Yep. And it's just important to, like, I was just going to throw this on the engine. But look, we found those 2 around the wrong way.
No, which do you want?
Pin 1.
Pin 1.
So the trigger is always pin 1. Correct.
I can just figure out which one you want. There you go. So it's a white wire.
Yeah, it's important that
How can we?
It's just me.
Is it you?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay.
So it's important that we actually check polarity of them, so we confirm that it is pin 1.
So
but it's the right. Yep.
It's the right hand side if you look at the back.
And you might as well just hold on to that.
Okay.
Because we're going to do we're going to move to the. You hold the tool. We're going to move to the cam sensor.
Cam sensor. Is this from here?
Trig 2,
No.
which is the one that goes at the front. Yes, that one.
This one here. Yep.
Yep. So it's the same plug as the ones that we found.
Yeah. So there we go again. So there. It's
Correct.
The white one. Is that the white one as well?
Yeah.
Are there any reason that these are the same colours?
So
White and black. Okay.
if you look in the plug, they've added they've added the wires and the loom down in here. So I think what they've done is when they've built the loom, they've started with a standard Lexus loom because these are all Lexus colours, and you've still got the feedback wire in there.
Okay.
So they've stripped it, but added the cam and crank sensors nicely.
Right.
And that's why you've got this little tiny wire for cam and crank sensor wiring.
They've been added.
They've been added.
Yeah, that's not a factory looking size.
And then they've recycled. I believe it's got a normal temp sensor because that's not a VVTi plug that was on it. So I'm going to supply a new temp sensor so I know that's right. Common thing that they get old and yucky. They get lazy. So a new one. There's no idle speed. There's no air temp. That just simply doesn't exist.
Probably doesn't matter for a boat because your boat more or less full throttle, on off.
They get really hot under the engine bay, so it can help starting. Is the thing there?
Okay, yeah.
And then
yeah, air temp is a reference part. It's not necessarily super critical though, is it? Depending on
fuel
depends
changes quite a lot with the air. So I find they're a really good way to have air temp. And we found that these two, because we continuity tested it, these two are around the wrong way. So that could be a problem of why it doesn't run right. And that's what we find by doing a continuity test.
Yeah, so you said left and right hand camshaft position or something?
That's the VVT.
Oh,
So
VVT,
what it does is it advances the VVT with these guys, okay? And then it monitors, that should monitor the VVT
Yeah, but it's
result.
monitoring the wrong side. So in perfection, it's fine, but if there's a slight variation, it's something going to go
But
off,
it
isn't
should throw a code if it doesn't get what it's expecting in closed loop, because it's not it's going, hey, I've moved it, and it's where it should be.
Right.
And if it doesn't see that, it freaks out and says, no, there's a problem, and should turn VVT off in a good ECU.
But yeah, but you haven't got a stock ECU, so you may not. You
Link do it. Link do it as well.
Okay.
Link reference it. They'll bring up a fault code.
Okay.
So a lot of the higher end ECUs will reference it. So if it's not correct.
So the higher end ECUs are behaving like a factory ECU.
Correct.
Because they're a factory ECU replacement, which is tunable more or less.
Yeah, because you don't want to advance that cam timing incorrectly, do you?
No, well, no, definitely not.
Right. Okay. As you just saw, we continuity tested all the wires in this loom. The only thing we found that's strange is the VVTi position sensors in the middle of the camshafts, located in the middle of the head. Everything else is as expected. So in here there's extra wires that don't go anywhere. Idle wires, so they must be cut off in here somewhere. I don't know where they go. The feedback loop of the coils, they go somewhere. Don't know where they go. There's no air temp. The alternator does power up as we would expect. We've got fuel gauge all the way out here. Probably has the, well, it's either in the front or the back of the boat, isn't it? The throttle body has been changed to mechanical. Actually, it featured in one of the other videos. So there's no idle speed control on this vehicle. Just using the TPS, which is there. The accelerator position sensor is not used at all. We have a fuel pump output here. So that runs through the loom. The ECU is controlling the fuel pump, which is good. Oil pressure, water temperature to the dash, which of course there's the dash over there, we've got that. So with all that done, all that sorted, I've got my battery, we've got the high-tech zip tie connections on the battery.
If you touch both at the same time, you get a belt.
Yeah.
I won't do that.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever. We've got the tuning cable, we've got the book, I got the software on the USB, so it's time to connect in. I can turn the key on because the man supplied the key with the dash, which that is the best way to do it. That's a good way to do it. Let's plug this in, let's get the software working, let's get some communications with it, make it all happen. I probably should say, yeah, here's my knock sensor loom. Only one knock sensor is actually used. This computer does have knock control, but just the left hand one is doing the job. And it's probably not turned on and configured in the computer. It's probably just going along for the ride. Vacuum hose. So using an internal map sensor. And it's actually been taped into the loom, which I don't like. I prefer to have them externally. Because if anything goes wrong with it, you can actually just change it, or you can find the issue. But that's okay. It's going to work. Software, tuning, setup, checking. I was just going to throw this on the engine and fire it up. But by actually continuity testing it for the probably half an hour that it took me, it was worth it because we found a possible issue. It's a Sunday today. I'm not going to go ring the suppliers because I get pissed off when people ring me on a Sunday, and they probably get grumpy Calvin, and I tell them to ring during work time. So we will probably contact the supplier of the ECU, just confirm on that, whether it's a peculiarity or whether they prefer to do it that way. We might find out something in the software. Sometimes, even as men, we do need to admit we need to read the instructions. To get the software loaded on this one, you do, that's my water pump. Someone's using some water in my house. Because this place, it isn't normal. We just have a little tank and it's fed by mains. It's fed by a tank, and every time you turn the tap on, the water pump goes. But anyway, I think we can work around that. For this one, we do need to read the instructions to load the software. Once we get in here, the software is pretty basic. And I've had a quick skim over it and found quite a number of issues. Without being totally familiar with the software, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be totally familiar with the software to understand that it's an engine and it's an engine management system, and because they all do the same thing. Now, I've only used this software a few times. I'd probably describe it as being a little bit clunky. It's very similar to the Gen 1 Link with its own peculiarities to make it just different enough from a Gen 1 Link. I kind of think that the makers of this ECU actually may have worked for Link at some stage and gone off and done their own thing. Actually, I'm fairly confident of that. So we have the software open, and we're going to go through and I'm going to make a couple of adjustments on the bench and do some checking. There's it looks very much like it's the default base file for this engine. Looking at the age of it, I can actually look at the age, and it told me that it was 2011. Okay, I'm going to turn it on here. Okay, so this just lights up. A little red light flashes.
Right, so it's active and communicating.
I've got the TPS. I have my power kit. Okay, so that doesn't matter because we're upside down. Okay, so that's doing nothing, which we know about. I understand. I've been in this throttle body, but so this is starting to open the throttle plate.
Right, so if you zero, it should be near zero.
Okay, and you're gonna watch that number there.
The lamb?
No, not the lamb. The lambs are in the paddock.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
I told you about the lambs.
I told you about our new lambda sensors. I don't know you got pointed to lamb.
Not lamb. The TPS.
Sorry, TPS. My apologies.
Not the lambda sensors.
No, there's the sensors are outside, probably in the shed because it's a bit cold and raining outside.
Yep.
I'm going to look at the TPS, not the lamb.
Okay, so I'm opening the throttle.
Yeah. And it should start to show numbers.
Okay, it's showing numbers.
Is that percentage or probably is?
It's a number.
Okay.
Don't care what.
Yeah.
No, it actually goes to 300.
Okay, I can't.
So it doesn't actually give me a percentage.
No, you're right.
It doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're back. We're at 0.
Mm-hmm.
So that should relate to 0. How much 0 is it?
Oh, it's 0 here. And what have you got there? Oh, you got maybe 2/3 throttle. This is a bit of a problem.
So I've got to resolve that before going to the engine.
No, 300.
The number's 300. Yep.
300. 0 to 300.
So
open 0 to 300.
So I probed in at the sensor, and because you got the 2 TPS sensors effectively, because you'd have, this is normally drive by wire, so you've normally got, so on the early ones you've got 5 volt and an earth,
Yep.
and then you've got an idle switch and a signal.
Right.
This one you've got the 2 center, you've got 2 signals because it's a backup sensor signal for the drive-by-wire.
Okay.
But one actually maxes out at 5 volts prior to going 100% throttle.
Right.
So it's just a backup sensor. I then probe the ECU. So I got the TPS, probe ECU, and so the TPS is getting a signal like it should.
Yeah, 0.6 there.
And when you open it, it goes to 4 volts. Was it 4?
Yeah, 4.2 I think it was, something like that.
Which is pretty normal for a Toyota.
4.2. There you go. A 413.
Yep. And then I just redid the calibration with the ECU, and now just open it nice and steady.
Just to slowly.
Look at that, just open.
Yeah, I'm
it's
just
working.
touching the throttle. Just touching the throttle now.
Yeah, and if full throttle it goes, of course, to 300, which is a unknown. Let's just pick a number, make it 300.
It's 300, so there's increments of 300 increments in it.
And that's
for whatever reason.
That's what the instruction book says, to 0 to 300. So sorted, calibrated. Another thing off the list, and that is the owner's throttle body. So that's off this boat.
Yeah, so
I've got to fit that to the engine.
It was never calibrated correctly then.
Never calibrated correctly.
Yes, I wouldn't need. Yeah, okay. That's not going to be helpful, is it? Really?
Nope. So these are the connectors I put
Oh, okay.
out. That is the seal
Oh, yeah. For
out of one of the injectors, I think it was. That is rubber.
It's hard as hell.
So very, very hard. And that's why I put a new set of connectors on. A lot of these internally, just the little edges, the edges of the clips fell off. And then that one possibly was removed destructively because I just couldn't get it out. And that's the one with the rubbers off. So it's just easy again to put new set of connectors on because I know they're right. These are recycled, and that one was Chinese. And it was soldered. It was soldered, and it's got different clips. They've got a rolled terminal.
Oh, okay.
So it's got this rolled terminal, which is quite a lot different in the way they clip in. So then these are 20-year-old connectors.
Yeah, well,
Teleported back to the main workshop. I've got my 3UZ engine here. And some of you might be saying, hey, wait a minute. This was a 1UZ. You said something about 1UZ VVTi. Well, I did. And just a note, guys, these are not the factory 3UZ exhaust manifolds. They're a set that I make up. Okay, so that is not factory 3UZ. A 3UZ VVTi, which they're all VVTi, and a 1UZ VVTi early are very, very similar. Differences. Now we're talking early 3UZ, so this is the early 3UZ throttle body. 2-pin with a TPS. There's the 1UZ VVTi for all models, the throttle body. This one has, of course, been modified to be manualized. Okay, so I'm going to put that on. Different size bolts. So longs and shorts, and this is all long. I'm going to take coils out, put the big early coils into it. Injectors are the same. Intake manifold is the difference with the holes in here, but dimensionally the same. It's just the fittings on them are different. This housing is a 3UZ, it's different to the 1UZ. Apart from that, we're pretty much the same thing as far as we're concerned for this job. Capacity air pump's different between them. These are the differences. But as far as the management goes, it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to put the 1UZ VVTi management onto this 3UZ, and vroom vroom, it will work. With the correct bits swapped over. Dash, ECU, engine with our engine loom, earmuffs. I'm not even going to connect the laptop. I'm just going to see if it runs. Here is a fuel pump. We'll take that away. I didn't need those hairs anyway. starts anyway. Okay. It has no cold start idle. There's no idle speed control. It doesn't exist. It hasn't been wired in. But it's a runner. It's a really good start. I'm going to do some setup, do some checking. I know it goes. I can hear it a bit fluffy. Might just be because it's a bit cold. But we're going to run it over it. I'll give it a check. See what I can do with it. But that's a big step forward, knowing that it actually does start and run like it should, which it did beforehand because it came off a running boat. It's taken about 2 minutes maybe, and it's up to temperature. So I'll show you something interesting. And I talked about it on the bench, I thought it was wrong. This fella here, at idle, should be down there. And then at high revs it should come back up here. Let me bring the revs up and watch it. Alternator is charging, rev counter works, and I can make both of those work just with my test light. I've got to find out about the cam position sensors. Even through the earmuffs I can hear a sucking noise, but it's normal. Righto, I am having a really good day. Starting, it's running like it should. Really happy. I talked to the maker of these ECUs, who actually happened to be the founder of Link, hence why it's just very, very similar to a version 1 Link. He actually offered to give us an upgrade and a reflash to the newer software for free. So that's going in a box. It's going on a trip for a few days. We'll continue this, probably be 4 or 5, 6 days before we get back to this. But hey, good success. I did some testing with regard to the cam sensors. It looks like that might have been an issue that has been since resolved, and it runs better the way it is. I swapped it around, it doesn't run good. No, and the figures get very strange. So, happy days, very happy, get this away. We will return just for a recheck, make it run again, but hey, this is pretty much nailed. I'm pretty much at the end of this job. We're at the pointy end of the stick. Really, really happy. Hello, mummy. I got your baby, eh? I've got your baby. Here's your baby. Yes? Oh. Good girl. You've done a lovely job. Here, little lamb. Off you go. Go back to mum. Up you get. Good little lamb. So that's a little ewe lamb. And these are Woolshires. They self-shed their wool. Mummy had her first. That's my first one. I think she's had a baby before. She's got a little bit of baggy udder, you know. Didn't flush up the udder as much as I thought there, miss. Lovely job. Good little lamb. Oh, is it dinner time? Good looking lamb.